Right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our weekly webinar. And the clock has struck noon here in our Cape Town studio, and we're excited to kick off another engaging and informative webinar session. I'm Neil Peterson. I'm the founder and content-in-chief of Real Estate Investor, South Africa's leading independent platform for real estate content, education, investing, and news since 2007. And I'm thrilled to be your host and moderator for today's investment webinar. And we're delighted to have you join us, what promises to be a valuable discussion. And at REI, we're dedicated to supporting South African real estate investors, the real estate industry, and the property business community through our digital platform, rei.co.za, our monthly magazine, Real Estate Investor, and our investment webinars, seminars, and live investor events. Today's topic is unlocking cash flow, investing in HMOs in the UK. What are the benefits? What is the process? And what are the risks? And before we dive into our discussion and also introduce you to our guest panelist and sponsor, here are a few housekeeping details. So if you've registered for today's webinar, we will send you a recording by email after the event. And for those of you who have not registered yet, you can find the recording on the homepage of the rei.co.za website under events in the webinar section. And we encourage both new and returning guests to engage actively and ask questions throughout the webinar. You just submit your questions in the Q&A box located at the bottom right of your screen. That's a chat box, which we normally reserve for general comments. So let's jump into the core of today's session, unlocking cash flow, investing in HMOs in the UK. So let's just talk a little bit about what we're going to cover. We're going to explore why a house of multiple occupancies, that's HMOs, are revolutionizing cash flow investments in the UK. And we're going to discover how HMOs can achieve 12% plus gross yields or more, and much higher yields than normal, and also minimize vacancies and ensure steady income through a diverse tenant pool, and how multiple tenants protect against non-payments, so how you can reduce your risks and also maximize potential of converting properties into HMOs. So there's lots of opportunities and also capital growth, and which are the high demand areas. So without further delay, let me introduce our distinguished guest panelist. His name is Dean Parada. Dean is the director and founder of Parada Properties. It's a leading property sourcing company based in Manchester. So Dean, would you like to take a moment to introduce yourself to our audience in more detail? Thanks. Great having you again, Dean.
No problem, Neil. Thanks for having me as well, guys. And thanks for joining, taking time out of your busy days. So as per Neil's introduction, I'm the founder and director of Parada Property. Neil introduced us as a sourcing company. However, we're not just sourcing. We also, that's sometimes it's a dirty word here in the UK, sourcing, but we do development, and we provide essentially a turnkey service, which I'll go into more detail in shortly, for buying and owning HMO developments and investments here in the UK. We've been going since 2021. We've done 50 plus projects so far. And our specialty, guys, that we provide, that we kind of pride ourselves on, is providing that service to international and overseas clients, such as those in South Africa.
Wonderful. No, thanks for that intro there, Dean. And so maybe let's start off at the beginning. Let's talk about what is an HMO. You know, what makes it distinct, particularly in the UK market, because I don't recall anywhere around the world HMO, definitely not in Australia, I don't think, but certainly also not in South Africa. So maybe just tell us what is an HMO and what makes it distinct in the property market, and then we can start covering benefits of owning an HMO property.
Yeah, so a HMO property is really, really simple. It's just a shared house. So it's between 4 or more people that are not related that share a house. So think of it as a university house, whereas our main tenant type is generally professionals or those that need housing. It's just a house that we take and then we divide it up into individual rooms for each tenant.
Okay, excellent. Great. Thanks for clarifying that. So, Dean, I think maybe what you can do, because we're going to start uncovering the benefits, and I know it's better to, a picture tells 1,000 words, and I know you have a slide that you would like to show us and take us through a bit of a presentation here. So I'm going to hand over to you to take from here. If you can maybe just open up your, and talk us through some of the benefits. I know you're going to take us through some deals, and also encourage our audience along the way. If there's any questions, put it into the box, and we can deal with it now. So you can take it away from here, Dean.
Cool. Thanks, Neil. So we have got a presentation where we'll run through a lot of stuff. As Neil mentioned, it's interactive. So if at any stage you've got questions, feel free to ask. There's a little chat box and you can put your hand up and whatever else. I want to make this as interactive as possible. Try and make it not boring as well, me just talking to the camera the whole time. So it's a pretty simple model, guys. But what I want to do in this presentation is I want you to have an in-depth understanding of what a HMO is and what we do and what an investment with us looks like. So we're going to cover all of those bases in this presentation. Quick one, Neil. How long do we have?
Okay, so we can take it through to 2:45, and obviously there's interaction, maybe even 10 to. So I mean, you've got a good 15 minutes that you can play with here. And if I have a question, or if the audience has got a question, I always suggest, guys, just put it in the Q&A box, and we can maybe deal with it as we go along. But there is time, and if there is an issue around time, I'll just interject with a question or something like that along the way. But I think you can take it away from here.
Easy. Thank you. Cool. So this is us. We're your HMO property partners here in the UK. We specialize in HMOs. We don't do any other properties. That's our bread and butter. That's the product that we do, guys. A little brief table of contents today. Who we are, key people, what we do, why HMOs, as Neil touched on before, our project so far. So we want to show you proof of concept of what we do. Borrowing information. We won't touch on too much on that, but that is something that we can definitely help with. And then live deals presentation at the end. We've got some actual deals that are available, and Q&A at the end. But as we said, Q&A can be throughout the whole presentation. So this is me. If you haven't picked up, I'm Australian. I'm not Kiwi, so don't ask me if I'm Kiwi. That's offensive. Australian living in the UK. Love travel. Moved here in 2017. Set up a property company 2021. Or X now. So the season's coming to an end. Professional rugby player. That's league. It's not. I know you suckers love union. It's rugby league, the 13 side. Founder of a property sourcing company, obviously, and a lover of real estate. Real estate for me, guys, has always been something that it makes sense. You can touch it, you can feel it. It's got an intrinsic value, and it's something that is really stood the test of time. Our team, so we've got a small team. We pride ourselves on having a small team, and we use a lot of partners that we work with. But our internal team, myself, the director, Angelo is our executive assistant, Callum's our project manager on site, and then Neo is our clients relations manager. So what is a HMO? A little bit more detail. Pictures for me, I'm quite simple. So pictures help me to understand stuff. It's a shared house. So HMO, home in multiple occupation or occupancy, is a fancy way of saying a shared house. Number two, it requires compliance. So you can't just get any house and put people in and call it a HMO. You have to have certain regulations. You have to make sure your rooms are certain sizes. You have certain amenities. You have to make sure that you've got certain fire regulations that you abide by. So it needs to be compliant. Three, has increased running costs. So obviously goes without saying, due to one property having multiple tenants, the running costs for a HMO are higher than a standard property. Number four is the juicy part, why everybody gets involved, is it earns multiple rents. So the landlord, however, receives separate rents from each individual tenant. For example, a 5-bedroom HMO Manchester will charge $550 per room. So rather than a standard, what we call a buy-to-let investment in the UK, which is just a standard residential property, pardon me, a HMO, you're getting multiple sets of rent. What do we do? So this is our turnkey service, our 8-step turnkey service from start to finish. Step one, we property source. So we source property in the UK that's suitable for HMO compliance. Our specialty area is the Northwest. We're not UK wide. We don't intend to go UK wide. In our opinion, Manchester is the best place to invest. Manchester and Liverpool, the two best cities in the UK to invest. So that's where we work. So we source in those areas. Step two, we secure the property, make sure that it's all compliant, it's off the market for our clients. Step three, pre-purchase prep. So once the property is secured, we'll take care of everything, including solicitors, surveys, builders are prepped, architectural drawings are done. That's what we call our pre-purchase prep or pre-purchase due diligence. Step four, we will do the refurbishment. So we're taking a standard residential and we're creating 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 20-bed HMO. So we will do that whole refurbishment for you. A lot of our clients, in fact, we've got kind of 4 main client bases: London slash UK, the Netherlands, Singapore, and Hong Kong. The majority of our clients, even our London-based clients, do not even visit the property, and that's what we pride our service on. We will do everything for them, so you don't have to see it. Usually, refurb will take 4 to 5 months, and we will send you bi-weekly dates, videos, and actual project reports. Step 5, property compliance. We make sure it's compliant. You've got all your licensing and certificates. Step 6, we will furnish the property as well. You need white goods furniture. You need to cover those things. Step 7, we will help you, and this is a bit that's really, really important. We will help you with the refinance process to ensure that you can get the valuation and you can get your refinance done. So if you're wanting to refinance on the investment, which we always advise you do, this is the BRRR strategy: buy, refurbish, refinance, rent, and then another R, recycle, and then recycle your money out. So that's the step that we encourage our clients to do. We will help you with step 7. Step 8, the handover. So we'll hand it over to either 2. We have 2 models that we do in terms of tenant types. We have a professional, which is just your general working professionals in the area that need a room, or we have housing association, which is with your local authority or a housing association provider, and they usually they usually work with disadvantaged people, whether they're homeless or ex-users, or whether they're distressed mothers or whatever it might be, victims of domestic violence. So those housing association, that model or a professional model, we will hand it over to that managing agent or provider at the end. Clients. So these are a couple of our Dutch clients that have worked with us. We have a long track record of working with international clients. We complete our turnkey service, long-term emphasis. So we're not here to do one deal. We're here to do multiple over the course of 5, 10, 15 years. 46 projects down and 15 underway. And then a few client reviews. Cayman, we've done a 6-bedroom HMO in Newcastle, 5-bed HMO in Manchester. The entire project was managed for Cayman while he was over in Hong Kong. Robert, Australian-based client, did not see or visit the property. His property was done in partnership with a housing association provider as well. And that was done for him while he was in Australia, and his ROI on his project was 23%. Terry, now, I'll see if you can hear this. This is just a quick review. Do you know what? Actually, let's skip through this part. This is just us kind of big noting ourselves for our client reviews, but you can check that out later. Why HMOs? Cool. So feel free to jump in on this as well, but these are just a few quick points on why we think that HMOs are great investments. First one is the demand for rooms. The demand for rooms in the UK is huge. I mean, go on any quick Google search, go on any kind of government website, or do a quick Google search, and you can have a look at what the demand for rooms in the UK is, or the demand for housing. There's a shortfall every year by like a couple 100,000, and the government can't keep up. So this is where we come in, HMOs. We fill that gap. We say, listen, the cost of living is going up. There's no new houses that are being built, at least not in line with the increase in population. we can provide accommodation that's affordable for people that otherwise can't buy or rent their own house. The other one is demand for rooms. That's for professional tenants. Demand for rooms for housing association. There's a lot of vulnerable people in the UK that don't have housing, and the demand is insane. So for that as well, that's another area where we can tap into. To Article 4 zoning. So real quickly, Article 4 is what comes is a jurisdiction or an implementation, a regulation, whatever you want to call it, that the council will bring in and say, in this area, there's too many HMOs. We don't want any more HMOs in this area. And they'll draw a circle on a map. That Article 4 zoning is coming into play in different areas at different times. So if you can get your HMO in before the Article 4 comes in, that makes your property all of a sudden it's a premium product, right? All of a sudden it's a product that can't be built anymore in that area. And what that does to the purchase price is just goes boom, shoots it straight up. Commercial valuations, our little secret on HMOs is you do get commercial valuations. Now, what's a commercial valuation? Really simple. It's not a residential valuation. So not where the property is just a comparison in the area from another residential down the road. Obviously, that's how you get your residential valuation. This is a commercial valuation, and they'll do it based on the rents in the area. Long story short, they're much higher. Streamlined service is obviously what we provide. So why not? If you can get a streamlined service to do this, we're doing all the heavy lifting for you. Capital appreciation, in line with your commercial valuation, your capital appreciation will go up more than a residential. And then cash flow, which you'll see in a bit. Obviously, cash flow a lot more. Questions? Cool. Stop me from talking so much. What do we got? Okay, it's just Neil and the guys. Sorry, let's keep moving on.
Yeah, just keep going there, Dean. I think we've actually reserved the back end for questions, but if there are stuff that does come in the way, or if I have one question, I will fire away. But the whole idea is to keep it right at the end, and we can really go into Q&A. So back over to you.
Gonna take a quick drink. Okay, risks involved. So with any investment, we're not going to act like it's all rosy. We think it is, but act like there's no risk involved. There's risk involved with any investment. Risk involved is rental demand. If you get a HMO in an area where the direct rental demand isn't high, yeah, you can have a fancy 5-bed HMO, but if you can't fill those rooms, then you're left with having to cover the running costs of that property and cover the voids. Build cost. Number 2 is the build cost. Again, we don't want to paint a picture that this happens, because we safeguard our process so this doesn't happen. But if you get involved with any property investment and the build cost blows out of budget, then you're obviously in a lot of trouble. What we do with our builders to resolve that is we ensure that our price is locked in before the deal is sold to our client. We also keep a small contingency, worst case, but we've done over 50 projects, so we know what these things cost. You look at a floor plan in the UK, every property is the same. So we know what these things cost. Article 4 zoning. So Article 4 zoning can come into play in an area as well. And then your HMO, if it's not licensed, you could be liable for that to not be regulated or be able to be used as a HMO. Again, we will make sure everything is licensed and we have compliance beforehand. Interest rates. Interest rates, guys, we have no power over, so they can go back up if commercial rates are higher than residential rates as well. So if your commercial rates go back up, then that can obviously chew into your cash flow and blow your numbers out. So that's something we don't have control over. But the good news is we're seeing interest rates come down a lot over the past 18, kind of 24 months, and we expect them to continue doing so. Valuations, the valuation's off. So a lot of the deal, as you'll see shortly, when we'll get into a deal sheet and you'll see the numbers, is based on being able to get that higher valuation. So you buy, you refurbish, and then you get the end valuation. And it's being able to get your money back out, recycle your capital back out on that new valuation. Now that valuation needs to be in line. If we get that wrong, it can really change your ROI, your return on investment on your property. So what we do is we work with a surveying company that we trust to do our valuations, where we can get a desktop valuation done from the outside, so we know from the outset, sorry, from the start, so we know what that end value is going to be when it comes time to refinance. The other great thing about the fact that we've done over 50 projects is that we have so many comparables in all our areas, so we can be pretty confident with what that valuation is going to be. With that being said, you can't always guarantee it 100%, but you can get as close to being certain as you can. Compliance. Last risk involved is that your property is not compliant. You need to ensure that the HMO is compliant. They're what we have is called, what you need is what we call our qualifying certificate. So your gas safety, your EICR, your building control certificate, all these things, as well as your HMO license, we will make sure we have on completion of the refurb. Cool. So why, again, HMOs versus a standard buy-to-let? I'm going to kind of go through this a bit quick, but you can see the numbers here. And you can see a standard 5-bedroom HMO versus a buy-to-let. And we'll see the numbers involved and then the profits. So we're looking at a like-for-like, a house price of 130 for a HMO versus a house price of 130 for a buy-to-let. Loan to value 75%, 75%. Borrowing amount 97,500, 97,500. Interest rate, as we said, interest rates are going to be more for a HMO, so we've gone at 6.75 for a buy-to-let at 5.5. Refurbishment, you've got a massive refurbishment that you need to cover for a HMO, 75k. You don't have as big. We're going on this example. We don't have a refurbishment for the buy-to-let, but just ignore that for a bit because we're going to recycle that out. Your monthly income on a standard 5-bedroom HMO, you're looking at 2,650 in this example. I think that's maybe 575 per room or 550 per room, versus a standard buy-to-let in the same area of Manchester is a monthly income of 1,000. Your mortgage repayments are therefore a lot more. You're looking at mortgage repayments of 894 at a 6.75% interest rate versus 778 at a 5.5% interest rate on your buy-to-let. Your running costs are more as well. You're looking at 530 versus your running costs at a buy-to-let of £200. But your cash flow, when all is said and done and you're refinanced your money back out, your cash flow on the exact same purchase price of a property for a HMO and a buy-to-let is 746 versus £22 on a buy-to-let. So what happened during COVID is when interest rates just shot up and went through the roof, it really took a lot of the buy-to-let investors out of the market because there wasn't enough juice in the lemon, so to speak, to be able to make a healthy income on your buy-to-lets. So a lot of these investors were taken out of the market. As you can see here, at 5.5%, you've only got £22 profit per month, which is nothing, almost negligible. Whereas HMO, even with your increased interest rate, you're still getting a monthly profit on your property. I had my own personal HMO that went up to 8. I think it might have gone up to 9% at one stage. It was on a variable interest rate. It went up to 9%. Don't do variable interest rates, by the way. It went up to 9% during COVID, and I was still making a profit on that every month because I had 6 tenants in there, and they were all paying between 550 to 600 per room. So that's the beauty of a HMO versus a buy-to-let. Cool. I'll touch quickly on the auction process. Now, the auction process is a method that we do to purchase property. So a lot of our property, we don't have, these secret magic tricks to get property. A lot of the times we just go on the market and we get stuff on the market. But because we've been doing it for a while, we know a lot of the agents and we know what we're looking for in terms of a HMO. It's a very different model to a buy-to-let. We're able to secure good property that others can't. But a method that we do a lot of is we go to auction agencies, and we say, listen, we don't want to go to auction because we don't want to get into a bidding war. We don't want to do all this due diligence, blah, 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 only to get rejected. So we want to buy this property pre-auction. Will the vendor take an offer pre-auction? They'll say yes or no. They say yes. This is a process that we do just so you've got an understanding. Step 1, offer agreed. Step two, we'll do our due diligence, build quote HAGDV. You need to make sure it's bang on, because once you pay the reservation fee and you sign contracts for an auction, you're locked in and your reservation fee is non-refundable. Step three, we'll get our agent to do our solicitor, to do a legal pack check to make sure the legals of that property check out before we actually commit to purchasing. If the legals don't check out, i.e. if the property is not registered, you can be in some trouble. And step four, reservation fee is paid. So once that reservation fee is, you're locked in and the property's secure. So that's just a little intro to the auction process. If you do choose to invest with us, we do a lot of those. Now, confirming the end value. Okay, so this is something as well that I touched on before, because this is an important part of a project of an investment, is making sure we can get our GDV locked in and making sure that we can get that. Otherwise, we can be out of pocket by quite a bit. I'll show you in detail in our numbers how this actually affects the deal, but this is just quickly how we confirm our GDV. First of all, step one is you've got to have the end lender in mind. So you need to make sure all these dots are connected. The end lender needs to be someone who will use the surveyor that we want to instruct to do the valuation. Because if it's a different surveyor and they won't accept that valuation report, then that report's worth nothing because that lender won't accept it. Do you see? Those two need to be linked together. So we will make sure that we use a surveyor that will be accepted by the major lenders, or at least the lender that we have in mind from the outset, or that you have in mind. We will work with you on that. And then step three is we can have that GDV guaranteed if those two pieces are connected. Our project so far, so 46 and counting, worth in a cumulative of 7.4 billion in investment. Also check out our YouTube channel. We'll send you links after. Our socials, we've got a lot of projects that we've done there on YouTube that you can see, on our Instagram, our LinkedIn, Facebook, etc. So this is Project Top, 6-bed in Bolton, Manchester, purchase 135, refurb 92,000. We've done a complete gut of this property. You'll see it in a second. We ripped everything out. We don't do cheap refurbs. A lot of our refurbs, all of our refurbs, we do everything that we need to do to ensure that we have future-proof the property so that you have an investment well into the future. And a lot of the times where we can, we'll put en suites in our rooms. They'll give you a higher GDV or end value on the property, better rents, and they will also give you better longevity on that property as well. So the refurb was 92K, GDV was 260, cash flow 926 per month, ROI was 20%. So this is what it looked like beforehand. We've done some stud work here as well as we started our refurb. And voila, this is what she looked like at the end when it was all done. Neil, just tell me as well if I'm flying through this too quick. I just want to get to the Q&A.
Not at all. But yeah, no, look, I think what will happen is, we'd like to unpack the deal a little bit later, because I'm sure there will be questions around finance and that kind of thing. So I think carry on. Just go. You don't have to fly through. You can take it through. I think we're going at a good pace. So yeah, let's see where we get to and how we deal with it at the end.
Stay on track. Cool. Project Clegg, guys, 5-bedroom HMO in Salford. This is actually one of the properties we've done for our overseas clients. Purchase 92, refurb 90, GDV was 200,000. The cash flow on this one was 1,800 per annum profit, net, sorry. Guaranteed rental scheme. So that's the same as a housing association. With the housing association model, guys, it is guaranteed rent. So they will say to you, they'll come and they'll say, Dean, I'll take your property for 5 years. I'll give you this much rent, say 1,800 per month, or I'll give you, 300 or 350 per room for 5 years. It's going to be lower than what you'll get on the market, but I'll cover all your running costs of that property. You'll have no voids. I'll take care of the maintenance and I'll pay for all the bills. In 5 years' time, if you want your property back, you can come get it back. But until then, we'll pay you every month and we'll take care of your property. So we're doing a lot of those. That's probably our main focus at the moment, because they are quite lucrative, and they're also a lot very, very much hands off for our clients. So this was a guaranteed rental scheme or a housing association property, ROI 23%. Project Marsh, 5-bed in Warrington, a professional HMO, purchase 118, refurb 65, GDV 210, cash flow 991, ROI 24%. Cool. Our deals. So we've got some live deals. We've actually come to the back end. So we'll cover some live deals, but I want to spend some time going over the numbers in a bit more detail so you can see what's actually involved in an investment, what type of figures you need to cover, what we, I guess, want to have for our clients is we want to give a complete picture of what is involved in an investment, not just your purchase, refurb, stamp duty. There's a lot more involved in any purchase, but especially a HMO. So we will cover everything, and we'll go into a bit more detail in a second in that. Why the Northwest? So the UK's second and third cities, that's Manchester and Liverpool after obviously London. 30% property price growth predicted in the next 5 years. That's from Savills. Cheap property, obviously compared to London terraced house on average is £833,000 versus Manchester terraced house on average 294,000. So you can see it's a fraction of the price. The areas that we work in as well, we find property that's even cheaper than those prices. Okay, so the first area that we're in is Bolton. That's one of my favorite areas. Not to show favoritism to any of our areas, but it is. Why Bolton? So Bolton's a great area. If you look on a map, it's just north of Manchester, still accessible into the city centre. 1.5 million. Sorry, that's meant to be a B. That's billion being invested into regeneration and infrastructure improvements. It's within commuting distance to Manchester City. The university is being expanded. It's continually being expanded. And there's a further 50 million development in Farnworth Town Centre, which is it's a part of Bolton City, but it's just south on the border of Salford. So all in all, they're pretty much in Bolton, they've got a massive regeneration master plan that's going on where they're giving the whole town an uplift, because in the north, especially in the northwest of the UK, what you've got a lot of these old cities that were beautiful cities back in the day, smaller, but they relied heavily on either mining, coal mining, or mills like cotton mills and wool and those type of things. And a lot of these cities were profitable back in the day. Now, when all of those industries left the UK, all the money was drained out of these cities. Now, how the UK is structured for whatever reason is all the money funnels down to London. All the business, all the talent funnels down to London. So these old cities like Bolton, Manchester, Liverpool, and those type of things were left for a long time without any real economy. But what we're finding now is as London continues to get expensive, people are moving out of London into Greater London and into Manchester and places like this where there is economy, there is business, there is finance, there's a lot of investment that's going into these. So these are their own, for intents and purposes, self-sustaining economies, and they're not relying on the old industries that they're used to. So it's been a long game for these cities. And if you look through these cities, such as Liverpool and Bolton, there's these beautiful old industrial buildings that were used back in the day for say wool or mining or shipping or whatever it was, and they've just been left derelict. So there's heaps of opportunity for these buildings that are now being converted to apartments and living in those type of things. Anyway, that's my crash course on UK cities, regeneration in UK cities. But Bolton is one of those cities. So this is our deal. It's a 5-bedroom HMO that is live and available. Purchase price of 105,000, refurb of 77,000, GDV based on a comparable that we've done in the area, 235,000, cash flow 9,600 per annum. That's net after all expenses have been deducted, and we'll show you that in a sec. Money left in 53,330, which I'll show you in a second as well, and ROI is 18%. So this is our data analysis, and this is what you will see on a deal sheet of ours that we'll list on every deal. So you've got a complete picture of all these figures, and you know exactly what you're getting yourself into in any given deal. So you'll have your purchase price starting from the top. Can you see my mouse, by the way, when I do this?
Yeah. Yes, I can. Yes.
Oh, cool. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so you got first of all, you've got three columns. Now, not to be too confusing, but you got a cash buy. Buy, very straightforward. If you want to buy in cash, you got the cash to do so. Perfect. Do a cash buy. The second, which is my favorite, which is how I purchase my own property as well, is what we call a bridging buy. So a bridging is just short-term finance that you're going to get to purchase a HMO. Because remember, we don't need long-term finance because we're just buying to get to the point where we can do the refurbishment and then refinance. So we need something to get us there to that refinance. Now that's what we call a bridge. Short-term finance to buy to the end of the refurbishment to do the refinance. So that's bridging, the second one, and that is bridging just for the purchase of the property, not for the refurbishment. The refurbishment there will be covered in cash. The third column, however, is what we call a complete bridge. So that's a bridge for the purchase and for the refurbishment as well. Now, can you do that as a South African overseas client with no experience in the UK? Yes, you can. Now, the interest rates will be higher, but you can do either of those, obviously cash buy, but you can do either of these options, cash buy, a bridge, or a complete bridge on an investment in the UK. So cash buy, we'll look at these columns. We're going to stay in this cash buy just for simplicity's sake. So we're not going through all three columns. So we'll stay in cash buy and then we'll work our way down. So the purchase price on this deal is £105,000. The refurbishment cost, £77,000. The purchase cash required, obviously the full amount, 105. The stamp duty, 3,150. So depending on the property, you will or you won't have to pay stamp duty. Pardon me. A little secret: if the property is uninhabitable, i.e., there's no working electric, gas, there's no kitchen, don't pay stamp duty. So we don't pay stamp duty on those properties. In this instance, we do have to pay stamp duty. You also have a 2% surcharge for non-UK residents, which we don't include in this. So that's because not all our clients are overseas. The majority are UK, but there's a 2% non-UK surcharge. Refurbishment, 77,000, as mentioned. Bridging deposit, obviously we don't need that. We're buying cash. Bridging refinance fees. Now, why do we have bridging/refinance fees if we're purchasing cash? Because we're still going to refinance once we finish the refurbishment. So we need a budget for that. Solicitors' fees and searches. This is what our solicitor charges for his fees and searches. You can use your own. We'd recommend using ours. Solicitors in the UK are useless. To be honest, you need a good one. We've got two that we use and only two after years because we only trust two to do it right. You need to have good solicitors. Acquisition fee. So this is our fee, guys. We're very straight up with our fee. It is 7% of the total development value of the project. So that's our fee. It's split into two payments, and that's what we charge. We don't boost other fees, other prices here. We don't get kickbacks from other people or say if we charge this, you give us this. That's our fee that we charge, and it's split into two equal payments of whatever the amount is. Two half payments. One on commitment to a deal, and second on completion of the property. Now, if at any stage throughout the deal, throughout the process, we have got something right, this is up until completion. Say, for example, we budgeted 77,000 and we get a survey report, home buyer's report done on the property. It says you need a new roof. That's going to cost £20,000 that we didn't budget for. You will receive a full refund of your first payment. So if we get anything wrong, we don't want to tie you into the deal, and we won't tie you into the deal. We will give a full refund of that. We want happy clients and happy investors to repeat investing with us. So that's the first instance that you will receive a full refund. The second instance, you will receive a full refund bar £2,000 if you change your mind. So say, for example, there's nothing wrong with the deal. There's nothing wrong with the information that we've given, but you want to buy another investment, you want to go on a holiday, or you need the money, whatever it is, that's fine. We don't want to hold you to the deal either. we will give you a refund back, but we will keep a £2,000 administration fee to cover our time expenses, those types of things. So that is our acquisition fee there. That covers the entire service, and it is 7% of the development value. Pre-auction due diligence. So this is dependent if it's a pre-auction purchase, as we talked about before. For this instance, this property at 7,500, that goes straight to the agent. Home buyers damp and timber reports is 725. Architectural drawings and planning, which we need because we're cutting up the property. We need to get architects in to do our drawings, 1,553. Build control, HMO and licensing, we need the correct sign-off and licenses, 1,700. Utilities, council tax, insurance. During the refurb, when you own the property, you're still going to incur costs. So that's 1,062. Furniture, white goods and blinds, depending on the property. For this one, we've anticipated 7,500. In fact, we can get that a lot cheaper. That's actually a bit overestimated. So depending on the properties, obviously if it's professional, we have a higher cost for furniture, white goods and blinds. If it's a HA, we can do cheaper furniture and a cheaper fit out. Total cash required for the project conversion is 224,000. Total project cost is 224,000 as well. Your end value, as we estimated, is 235,000, which we're confident with if we haven't said that enough times already, which means you're going to do a gross capital recycled of 176,250. Now we'll tie into the second sheet in a actually, let's go on to the second sheet now so we can continue that train of thought. Now we've got our deductions here that we're going to take away. Now on a cash purchase, you haven't got any bridging fees. We don't need to cover any of those, so that's all blank. On a remortgage, remember you have remortgage fees as well that are, any lender's going to say, yeah, we'll refinance your property, but we're going to take 2% as a refinance fee. The broker will say, yeah, I'll do it, but I'll take 1%. So you've got to take away and calculate these fees in, which we have. We've gone as, these are pretty average deductions. A lender's fee at 2%, mortgage broker fee at 1%. So your total remortgagement fees are just around 5K. So your total capital recycled is £170,000. Your total capital left in is £53,000. Did you see how we get that? Over the 224, you're taking out, recycling £170,000 back in your pocket. Do whatever you want with it. Buy another property, go on a holiday, whatever you want. You've just spent 224, you're getting 170 back, which means the remainder is 53,000 that you need to leave in the deal. So that has to stay in the deal. So what we like to say is you've essentially purchased this investment for £53,000. On top of that, you've got 25% equity in the property as well. So that's what you're going to be left with at the end of the deal. Now you've got your actual cash flow. So not only have you purchased the investment for 53, but you've got your month-on-month cash flow, which I'll show you how we get to our ROI. So your anticipated rent is 1,850. In this instance, the provider has said we're going to give you, I think it's £360 per room per month, which is 360 times 5, 1,850. So your annual rent is 22,000. Then you've got your deductions. You've got your interest rate at 6.75, which we've estimated. Now you may be higher, you may be lower, depending on your experience, whether you've got property in the UK. So that's important to find out before you get in a deal. We can make an introduction to our broker who can help you with that. And then you've got your interest rate, so which will give you your mortgage repayment on an annual basis. So we've got a deduction of just under £12,000 here from our profit that we need to take away. On top of that, you've got your building insurance, and then you've got an optional biannual compliance check. This is just a check. If you want us to go check the property once or twice a year to make sure it's all okay, we can do that for you. But you haven't got any of the running costs involved in a professional HMO, things like council tax, like your electricity bill, like your gas bill, like your Wi-Fi. You don't have any of those things because or your management fee, which is a big one. You don't have any of those things because the provider will take care of all of those. They will cover the costs. So after all is said and done, you still have a monthly profit of £800 and an annual profit of 9,603, which gives you 18% ROI. So this is, we believe, the most accurate way to measure the ROI is what is left in the deal. What are you spending, which is 53 divided by the annual profit, or the annual profit divided by 53, which gives us 18% year on year. So after 5 and a bit years, you're going to have your full investment back. And obviously after 5 and a bit years, the capital appreciation of the property, which we don't factor in, is going to have gone up a lot more. So that's our cash column there. Now, the difference, if we go on a bridging column, which I won't go all the way down, but if we were to go on a bridging column, obviously you would have your deductions. So you'd have less money that you have to use up front, less capital. In this instance, you've got 152 for your bridge, and for your full bridge, you've got 106, which would actually be 80, but I don't want to confuse you. So it'd be 152 and 106. But you would have deductions for using bridging, so it would drop your ROI. So this is the first deal we have. I'm not going to do this for every deal, but this is important so you see how we structure our returns and how you can get a complete picture of the investment. But I'll continue on with this live deal. So these are the current plans of the property. You can see here, we're being quite clever with how we're doing it. It's 2 stories. This is essentially the floor plan for every house in the UK. So we're doing there's 2 stories, and this is what we're going to do to the property. We're going to cut it up, create a bedroom, one here in the living space, bedroom, the communal space, kitchen, diner is going to be here where we had our living space before. Our kitchen's going to turn into a bedroom with an ensuite, and then we're going to cut up the first floor to create 3 bedrooms as well. This is on a little bit of the smaller side. For a professional, we wouldn't go this small, but with HA, it is okay, because HA, they're not super strict on the room sizes. They just need good, safe rooms for the people that they're putting in. En-suites is a bonus. Obviously, they don't need en-suites, but we do that. As we mentioned earlier, if you want to go professional in the future or to get a higher GDV, en-suites work well. Some HAs will give you higher rents for en-suites. Some don't care. This one's actually an off-suite, but it's the same. It'll give you the same figures. Cool. Okay, Neil, did you jump on before? Did you want to say something before? I've just got a few more bits to get through on this, but that was the main kind of crux of it.
I think you explained it exceptionally well. I think, and I think what piques South African investor interests is exactly that whole cash flow that you explained, that spreadsheet. And because, as you know, Dean, our currency, we almost, I think it's 23.5 to 1 to the pound. So it's quite a significant amount of cash that South Africans got to put in. So on £100,000, you're looking at 2.33 million in South African rand. So it's quite a significant. However, I think what is very attractive is the fact that you can recycle that cash quite soon. And so I think maybe just maybe talk time just talk a little bit, because I think it's quite important. The other thing aligned to that is, I think a lot of South Africans probably look at a 75% LTV. There could be some cash buyers that could come in. But certainly even whether it's a 75% LTV, it's still a very attractive deal. So maybe just talk a little bit about the time that, money in, money out kind of thing from top to bottom. I mean, what kind of period of time are we talking in before it starts realizing returns on average?
Yeah, gotcha. So you're looking at your money in. Okay, so there's two phases, guys. The first one is your conveyancing phase. When you purchase a property, we go to the agent. We say we're buying this. We secured it. All our offers accepted. It's off the market. That's called our conveyancing phase. Now in the UK, things don't always happen quickly. So what we can do is get our solicitor to be quick, to move as quick as possible. We can't control the vendor or the seller's solicitor. So, and a lot of the time they're using cheap solicitors that take a lot of time. So that can take anywhere from 3 months. We've had it take up to 6 months just because they're dragging their feet. Now we can put pressure, we can get them to hurry up, but sometimes it can take that long. Auction property, a little caveat, little side note, auction properties are great because they have guaranteed terms. You have, 28 days or 56 days that you have to complete by. So they're great because speed is super important. Now that's the first phase, the conveyancing phase, which we can't really control. The second phase that we can control is the refurb. Now the refurbishment is generally 4 to 5 months, depending on the size. This is a 5-bed. We'd anticipate no more than 4 months for this one. If we went up to a bigger property, you might be looking at 5 months, but we say 4 to 5 months. We're in, we're out. Now you're looking there at, let's say, on average, 4 months for the conveyancing, 4 months for the refurb, let's say 8 months. You can refinance, and this is really important because a lot of people don't know that because you're on bridging, you're on short-term finance, so you can refinance as soon as the refurbishment is completed. In fact, what we do is we get our refinance process started before the refurbishment completes because we want to be able to get our money out as soon as the property is ready. It's pretty, it's all new, you've got paint on the walls, blah, blah, blah. We want to get our surveyor in to do the refinance valuation, to then go back to the lender to give them the report. So the lender says, okay, it's worth 235. Here you go. So that usually takes anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks post refurb completion. So let's say 4, 8 plus another 6 weeks is you're looking at 9.5 months to get your money back out of this deal. Can be quicker, can be longer, but generally I'd say that's a safe kind of time frame to give yourself for an investment.
Okay, I think that's very reasonable, and to recycle that, I think it's definitely that's something that makes, in my mind, HMOs very attractive. And I mean, as you said, there's two options: you can go on holiday, or you can reinvest it. And probably a good idea to probably reinvest the next deal and and do that and spend part of the money on holiday or both.
Yeah, spend your cash flow on holiday. But take your capital and use it again. Neil, if I can, this
Okay.
one here as well, guys. This is because that can, when you do the exchange rate and that, I understand that can be quite a lot of money. You don't
Yeah.
have to do cash. It's super easy to do bridge. A lot of our clients do bridge. Yes, you've got your bridging fees, which if we come down to here, there's 6K as an example for this one, £6,000. Plus your deductions on the next page when you come to refinance, which are another total bridging fees, which are another couple of £1,000 or £2,000 there. Yes, you do have to spend that money, but it does allow you to get into a deal with less capital if you don't have that amount of capital. Now, my thinking is, this is just my personal thinking, is that in property, time is money. Why? Because of capital appreciation, right? The longer you own property, the more it goes up in value, the more it's worth. Now, if you have a certain allocated amount of money to spend on investment, why not bite the bullet on spending that money on the bridging and refinance fees and go down that route? Because that means you're going to own more property for a longer period of time, which will eventually pay you back in the capital appreciation as well as the cash flow. Does that make sense? As opposed to going, well, I have to have all the cash because I want to save 6K. Forget about the 6K. If it's 10K, forget about the 10K. Get involved in more property, because as soon as that property is up and running, you're now earning that appreciation and you're earning your cash flow, which is going to pay you back way more than that 610, whatever it is that you spend on fees. That's just my personal thinking.
Yeah, good advice. So let's just talk. Have you, in terms of, because people are from a distance. I mean, as you mentioned, you got 4 of your clients are all offshore. And in terms of managing, because managing the tenants is key. And do you assist obviously with management companies and or helping the investor choose a management company? Because I think that's key if you are working offshore.
Yeah, of course. So the two models that we have, guys, is the professional and the HA. Now, very simply, HA, you don't need a management company because that housing association provider is the managing agent. You will have a contract with them, a lease that you will sign that will have all the agreement, what they will cover and what they're liable for. They will be liable for the entire, maintenance and regulation of that property, which is great. Now, I would advise to still have eyes on the property every other kind of at least once a year, which is why we offer a compliance check. Or if you want to come here and do it yourself, absolutely. But you don't need management for that. The HA provider will take care of that property for the duration of the lease. 5, 3, 5, 7 years, whatever it is. Generally speaking, as well, there's an unwritten rule in the UK with HA providers because of the lack of housing. If they get the property, they're going to keep it. They're going to extend it 5 years down the track. Now, we can't guarantee they will, but they generally, it's an unwritten rule that they will keep that. They will want to keep that property from you for the duration of its life due to the shortage of housing. Now, that's HA. Very simply, you don't need a managing agent. The other one is professional. If you have a professional HMO, you need a managing agent to run that for you. Now, we work with 2 agencies in the UK, super important, because if you get a bad agent, a lot of these numbers, well, your rents anyway, don't mean anything if the agent's not getting tenants in or if they're getting bad tenants in. So we only work with 2 agents that we'll introduce you to that will provide a turnkey service for you as well and manage that property even as you're remote.
Okay, excellent. Good. To the audience, I know there's 30 odd people here. If you've got some, questions, please fire away. I don't know whether, Dean, I think you explained it very nicely, and I think you've taken us through that whole process. Do you recommend, I mean, it probably makes sense to, as part of first introduction, most of your clients jump on a plane and they meet you on site. Is that pretty much what you would prefer in terms of how we would first engage with you?
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to. Like, I like to meet my clients, and we kind of. It's always good to know who you work with and build that trust on both sides. But a lot of our clients we've never met, like personally. So
Yeah.
everything's done kind of virtually today. So we're more
Yeah.
than happy to have a Zoom. Obviously, feel us out. We're happy to provide references and those type of things, and ask the questions that you need to ask. And when you're ready to commit at any stage, that can be done while you're in South Africa, and we can get things moving. If you want to come to the UK to get a more personal touch or get a more, deeper understanding of myself and our team, then by all means, we'd love to do that. Alternatively, we'll come to South Africa someday and then meet
Yeah.
everyone there if there's enough SA clients.
Okay, great. Yeah, because I think, historically, and it, there have been some South African investors done some stuff remotely. It hasn't worked out as they would have wanted to. So I think, one of the things that we do at Real Estate Investor is, we certainly endorse a lot of our partners like Dean. So, so that Dean doesn't disappear and your money doesn't disappear, which we've had 1 or 2 investors, and it's the biggest fear of somebody that obviously invests offshore. And it's not a commonality, but it has happened in the past. So there has to be an implicit trust with the partner.
Of course, it does. You need to know who you're working with. We've tried to build a little bit of I think we have built quite a good reputation in that regard. But we're happy to give referrals of clients that we've worked with. I mean, check out our Google reviews, check out our reviews on our website. You'll see the genuine and the type of things our clients say about us. And they're from a broad spectrum as well. It's not just one type of client base. They're from people all over the world that we've worked with. So we've been around. I mean, you get found out pretty quickly, Neil, if you're doing,
absolutely
stuff and running out with money. In this day and age, when there's so much exposure online, you'll get found out pretty quickly. So I think, our reputation speaks for itself in that regard. But by all means, no matter who you work with, it's very, very important. If you're investing in the UK property, there's not a lot of regulation here. I'll be honest. There's not a lot of regulation if you want to do what we're doing. It's very easy to get up and do that. So make sure you do your due diligence on everyone, because there are a lot of cowboys in the UK that will take money and run and that don't know what they're doing, or that will promise the world and not deliver. So no matter who it is, make sure you're doing your due diligence on those people and take your time. Don't rush into something. They're saying it's a unicorn deal. It's most likely not. And if there's time pressure, there's always going to be property available. So don't rush into these type of things. And even with us, if you are interested, don't rush into it. Just take your time, vet us, figure it out, make sure you're comfortable.
Wonderful. I think that's just a wonderful way, I think, to to wrap up there, Dean. Thanks very much. And what we'll do is, I think we've got to do a little bit of a follow up at some stage as well. And but I think you've really, I think that we could carry on asking all various type of questions, but I think those are the key ones for now. And it's great to see that, you know, there's such wonderful deals out there offshore with such great cash flow, and because they're not easy to find. I mean, the buy to lets are, you know, you use the good example there, have become just far too dear for any sort of South African to even consider. You know, so but this one gives cash flow. HMOs give incredible cash flow, and also recycled cash as well, which you can reinvest. Or so it has, you know, within a year period, it's a pretty decent investment. So maybe, Dean, just your final thoughts, your final words just before we sign off. I can't believe where the time has gone. It's just disappeared, and hours disappeared.
Yeah, I talk too much. No, no final thoughts, mate. Just thanks, guys, for joining. And if you've got questions, our contact details are there, so feel free to get in touch with us. WhatsApp's easy for us. We're quite visible on WhatsApp, quite quick on WhatsApp. But yeah, thank you for your time, and I hope it was enjoyable, educational. And
Absolutely.
yes, just last piece, guys. Make sure you do your DD, no matter who it is you're working with, especially, you know, in the UK.
Great stuff. Awesome. That's Dean Parata of Parata Properties. And for those that want to take the plunge, Dean has invited you directly. We certainly endorse, but from a real estate investor. And just before we close and everybody disappears, I just want to remind you, our audience, of our webinar coming up next Thursday, 26th of September. So we're back to our regular Thursday slot. That's from 12 to 1, and looking at investor excellence. We just had the Investor of the Year awards here in Johannesburg last week. And so we're going to be looking and meeting some of the investors that won their awards. So there is a link which is up on the site. So to our audience, once again, if you want to also come to that event, you can just go to the rei.co.za website. So to Dean, once again, thank you very much. Your input was great. I think it was very insightful. I think it's a massive opportunity for those looking at spreading their wings offshore to the UK. And to our audience, we appreciate your active participation, your engagement. We hope you not only gain valuable knowledge, that you'll act. And please, yes, reach out to Dean. It's been wonderful. And this is Neil Peterson of Real Estate Investor, along with Dean Parata of Parata Properties, signing out. And thank you. And we'll definitely have to do a follow-up there, Dean. Thanks, everybody. Cheers. Thanks, Dean.